Sorry.
Welcome. My name is Michelle Mason, and I'm an Associate Vice President with School Management and a former BASIS head of school. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to Open Enrollment. I will share our slides here in just a moment and welcome you to our virtual info session. The purpose of Open Enrollment is to give you the information you need about BASIS schools in order to make the best decision for yourself and your children and your family. And we, of course, think that that's going to be a BASIS charter school near you. We are beginning the Open Enrollment season. It started on October 23rd and will go through December 13th. And as I go through the information about BASIS schools, it'll be my pleasure to share that information with you. So throughout this recorded session, I will answer the kinds of questions that I've been asked for many years from many different parents of many different age students. But you will also have access to having your questions answered by BASIS.ed specialists. So make sure that you, as you're watching this, you're taking your notes, writing down your questions, and we'll be happy to answer any of them for you. So as I said, my name is Michelle Mason, and I'm Associate Vice President of School Management. And what that means is that it's my job to support our school directors, our heads of school, heads of operations in the running of BASIS schools. I've been with BASIS for 17 years. I was a Latin teacher and classical history teacher for the 5th and 6th graders for a number of years. I have been head of school at BASIS Oro Valley, opened BASIS Oro Valley Primary, and I most recently have been a head of school at BASIS Tucson Primary for the last 6 years. So in addition, I'm a BASIS parent of a graduate. My daughter Audrey graduated in 2020, and my son Adonis is in 6th grade at BASIS Tucson North and is 11, and he has had the opportunity to go through the primary school system with BASIS. About BASIS, we are really a phenomenal option for your family. We are globally competitive. We are tuition free. We are public charter school, meaning that we are publicly funded. And we provide a phenomenal K through 12 education for your children. We have been ranked the #1 schools in the network according to the US News report. And it's really important to us in the sense that it gives us accurate feedback that what we are doing is really benefiting your students. Our newest school is now open in Arizona. That is in Anthem, BASIS Phoenix North, and is currently serving grades K through 5 for the 24-25 school year. So if you're in that area and looking for an option for your children for this year, they do have open enrollment. I'd also like to share that many of our schools do have openings in various grades. So you're welcome to choose a school near you and see what kind of availability they have if you're interested in making that change for the current school year. And there's a slide that gives you that information. You can visit enrollbasis.com/apply, and that will give you information on applying for the current school year. But it's definitely not too late for most of our grades because we want to get your students in as early in the year as possible, and we'd much rather have them this year and have that chance to serve them. However, we're here today to really talk about next year. And for those of you with young children, this might be your first experience signing your child up for kindergarten. So I'll focus a little bit on that. But really what I'll be doing is providing you an overview of the K-5 education experience at BASIS, because as important as kindergarten is, as important your senior year is, it's everything in between that is providing that structure and that level of knowledge that your children are going to take on into their college and adult lives. Do apply today. That website is on the screen. And that will also allow you, if you haven't already, to subscribe to our emails and texts, to find a school that's near you, to sign up for a tour. We highly recommend going and viewing BASIS schools. Nothing does a better job showing you what a BASIS school is like than being able to see the kids and the teachers and the staff that support everyone in that school and what that environment looks like. And you'll also be able to start your online application as well as complete it if you are ready to do so. The open enrollment, what that means is there's a specific time that's allocated for really getting the word out about our schools and getting our parents to apply. If your application is submitted during open enrollment, that is the best chance of securing your spot for the next year. The reason that that's so important is that if I have, say, a school that has 5 sections of kindergarten, we're going to make offers to the first 160 students who've applied during the open enrollment. If we have more than 160 applicants, then those all of those names are then put into a lottery, and that lottery then means that numbers 1 through 160 will receive their offers in mid to late January. And then everyone else has a wait list number. So if you're number 1 on the wait list, that means that as we make our offers out to the students, as those offers are processed, we inevitably have students who, families will tell us, oh, actually, we moved to another state, or actually, we moved across town and we're going to go to a different BASIS school. So what that allows us to do then is make an offer to the next person on that wait list. Any families who turn in applications after open enrollment closes are given a waitlist number in the order in which it's received. So by turning in your application during open enrollment, you're securing the best opportunity to get a seat at the school that you've applied to. Again, we do have our BASIS enrollment specialist. So if you have any questions during that process, you are absolutely encouraged to reach out to them. We want to help you navigate the system so that we can get your kiddos into our schools for next year. What is great about BASIS is that our students have every door open to them. That's always been my favorite thing about a BASIS curriculum and a BASIS education is that by the time they graduate from high school, all doors are open to them. It is not a situation that many students in public school find themselves in, which is, hey, actually, maybe I've decided now I want to be a scientist, or when I want to go into a different field and I realize, oh, I didn't have enough math or I didn't have enough prerequisites. And so they start off college at a disadvantage, having to make up things that they should have been able to take for free while they were in high school. Our students in kinder all the way through 12th grade are really going to be leaning into that intellectual curiosity. One of my favorite things about being a BASIS parent is that my BASIS kids don't really have a sense that other kids in other schools may not think it's cool to want to know things, to want to understand everything that's going on in the world. They are very much supported in that intellectual curiosity, and they also have a very strong belief in their ability to understand the answers to any questions that they're asking. My son, who's in 6th grade, is famous for posing these questions to me. And as mom, where at some point I have to say, hey, buddy, I need you to go ask your teacher. I need someone else who has more expertise in this area to help answer your questions. And along with that, then they're also exposed to a diversity of thought, of points of view. They are very much prepared for a college education, and that starts very, very young. They learn to evaluate their strengths and the areas that they need more support in. And a big part of that is the amazing support system that we have in place. And I will touch on that a little bit more as we go through our presentation today. You're looking at some pictures of some real BASIS kids. I always like to point out that we don't actually choose children on the basis of how cute they are, but it is a byproduct. They are tremendously cute and entertaining. And our goal is to make sure that they are going to grow that intellectual curiosity that all children have. They want to know how the world works. and continue that as they grow up. They have lots of fun. There's lots of music, movement, activities, hands-on activities in the lower grades and the upper grades. There are experiments, again, hands-on activities, and learning how to apply their foundational knowledge into more complex scenarios and to answer more complex questions using critical thinking and analysis. So in kindergarten, we have a wonderful opportunity. We do have half day and full day programs. The full day program uh, has a great deal of the extra kinds of things that we talk about, specials, more music, performing arts. We also offer Mandarin and engineering in the afternoon for our full day students, as well as enrichment classes where they practice the skills that they're learning in the course of their school day. The part that is the same for both our full day and half day programs is their instruction in math, language, literacy, civics, which includes social studies, knowing your community, knowing about the mail delivery and the fire department and all of the public service kinds of rules that we explore in primary, as well as history and science. One of my favorite things to do is go into a kindergarten class and watch a teacher do a lesson on sound waves using speakers with saran wrap over the top and paint on top, but they actually get to see the sound waves traveling and moving. And then there's a little bit of opportunity to paint after that, of course. We have movement, which is essentially the PE class for kindergarten, as well as lunch and recess. There are multiple opportunities for movement throughout the day because they are kinders, and that's very important to helping them explore what they're learning and also keep their interest and activity level up throughout the day. In grades 1 through 3, we are focusing on that instructional piece. And to be fair, we're doing that starting in kindergarten. Even in kindergarten, we are an accelerated curriculum, not for the sake of being accelerated, although it is kind of fun to watch, but because that's where the students need to begin in order to meet the goals that we've set for them in middle school and high school. Those goals in turn are based on what they're going to need to know in order to enter college. So in 1st through 3rd grade, they're really going to be solidifying their concepts in numeracy and literacy. So for numeracy and math, what that means is by the time they're entering 1st grade, they know all of their numbers at least up to 100. They typically know how to count by hundreds as well. They've learned addition, they've learned subtraction, and they've learned their doubles. Going into 1st grade, we're spending a lot more time on that addition and subtraction piece and calculation. The basics of using writing skills to write down your numbers, how to line them up so that you're also able to solve those problems correctly. In literacy, you're learning your alphabet to begin with. You're learning your phonograms, or all your basic sounds that make up English words, and you're developing those reading skills. So that will continue in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. And as they are mastering those foundational pieces, they're also able to apply them to things like science and art and history, and really showing that those foundational units are what you need to have in order to really explore the rest of what the world has to offer. Foundational skills that we start teaching as early as kindergarten include something that I love. It's one of my favorite things about BASIS, and that is the communication journal. Now, a CJ, as we call it, is essentially a planner, but we do have them structured so that they line up with our students' school days. We have a version for kinder, we have a version for 1st through 4th grade, and we have a version for the big kids for the 5 through 12. The kinder, of course, has more room because as we're starting to learn our letters, we tend to write pretty big in kindergarten. And it will start off very simply. So I always think about the count from Sesame Street, the letter of the day and the number of the day, because that might be all that's written in a note for your humanities class or your literacy class in kindergarten. as the kids grow up, they are, of course, adding in more and more information. So by first grade, you'll see that in literacy that they read Toad and Frog, and that they are going to, their homework packet is going home on Monday, and it's going to be due the following Monday. We're starting to get more of that information in there. By the time your kiddos are in middle school and high school, they are fully managing the information that's going into their communication journal, and they're using it as a way to plan for their studying time, for due dates for larger projects. But in the primary, that's where we're really putting that structure. Every BASIS classroom you go into, on a board somewhere in the classroom will have what the CJ entry is for that day. And that's a really important part of what we do, because it's teaching the students how to track their workload and their responsibility as well. With that, of course, is the time management piece, working on that. Kids have a really interesting relationship with time until they become used to it. And that is, they might see if they're having fun and, rolling on the carpet, they might think that that only took, a few seconds, where in reality it took, a minute. And then when it comes to sitting down and doing something that they might perceive as more challenging for themselves, they might think that takes a really long time. And so getting them to understand that what time is, how to manage it, how to make the best choices for your time so that you're finishing your work and you have time to play, and you're spending maybe the same amount of time on one problem as on another. All of those things are the groundwork is being laid in school. The last one on this list, collaboration, is extremely important. In primary, we typically talk about teamwork rather than collaboration, because it's really important that the students are learning how to work with each other. Working with another student that has a different opinion about what we should put on our poster, or how we should draw the sailing ship, or how we should design our engineering project to solve our problem. They all have very strong opinions, and they're now learning how to work with other people who also have really strong opinions. In 4th through 5th grade, we're really solidifying that content knowledge, or deepening it. They're getting into more complex levels of understanding science. In 4th and 5th grade, they have a general science class as a separate class. And what they're doing then is able to start getting into science as a separate discipline. So they're spending units on biology, units on physics, units on chemistry, units on geology, units on atmospheric sciences, as well. And so they're seeing that there are these different areas that you can go more in depth in your science classes. Along with that, by 4th grade and 5th grade in math, they are learning how to start the rudimentary algebra, how to use the skills in computation that they've been learning, and applying them to more complicated problems, but then also starting to use that mathematical computation for their science classes. In 6th through 8th, they are still working on getting all of their skills together to be successful in their learning and deepening that content knowledge. So starting in 6th grade is where they have biology, chemistry, and physics as separate disciplines. They also have are beginning to work on more in-depth reading in their English class. They are really becoming very well educated young people. By 8th grade, they have as much or more content knowledge as I had graduating from college. And yet they're still middle schoolers. They're still young people who are exploring their world, having all their opinions. They're just as opinionated and interesting as middle schoolers at any other school. But like I said, they have extremely well-rounded content knowledge, and it makes for a really enjoyable time for the adults who work with them. BASIS middle schoolers are some of my favorite people, because you never know what they're going to say, but it's going to involve some science and some literature references that maybe you haven't thought about until until you had a BASIS middle schooler yourself. That spiraling curriculum then means that they are being prepared for going into high school. They are preparing for their AP exams. They are going to be earning some high school credit. They are going to be choosing what world language they're going to study going into the 9th through 12th grade. They are very much participating, really all along, but starting in 5th grade, in intentional academic support and peer tutoring opportunities. So, in terms of support for students, one of the things that's really important to keep in mind is that we have a wonderful two-teacher model that carries us from kinder through 3rd grade. And that means that there's a subject expert teacher who is specifically delivering instruction in that subject. So maybe math or maybe in humanities, and a learning expert teacher who is the teacher who is with that group of students throughout the day. They're much more like a classroom teacher in a traditional model. That's the teacher you email when your kids had a rough night, or that you just found their homework in the backseat of your car, or that the dog's been sick and that's what's causing all the issues with tears with your kiddo. And as that student then is developing those skills and has the support of those two teachers, that means the teachers are able to really hone in on any interventions or supplements that students might need to what they're learning in the course of their curriculum, as well as enrichment for students who might need something that's a little bit more challenging. Once our students get to 4th grade, the support system switches a little bit. They will now have all their classes with a subject expert teacher, and this is 4th grade through 12th grade. And those teachers are all going to be offering, as they do also in the 1st through 3rd grades, student hours. But it's becoming much more of a sense of self agency. So the teachers and the parents, we often, with our middle schoolers, are saying, hey, you need to go to student hours. I noticed you struggled on this last quiz. You need to go in to do some corrections and figure out what it is that you're continuing to not understand about this particular type of problem. And we want them to get to the point where they're really doing that on their own, where they're starting to identify, hey, I really didn't get that. Or, last week when I was out with strep throat, I thought I had it, but I really don't. I need to go in and talk to the teacher. The peer tutoring piece is one of my favorite things as well, because BASIS students love to tutor each other. And there's no way to learn something better than teaching it to someone else. So it's a benefit to our students who are the tutors, as well as to our students who are, again, sometimes hearing an explanation from someone who's only a year or two older and has been through the same learning process very recently that you are going through, is a way to really break through and help solidify that knowledge, as well as providing some really incredible support in role models and understanding that, hey, those kids who are in 8th grade, they all did what we're doing now in 6th grade. So 9 through 12, then, the focus is on maximizing that college readiness. And one of the things that, again, is super phenomenal is the students have the ability to take advanced placement courses at BASIS. It is a requirement for graduation. They have to take at least 6 AP classes. Most students end up averaging something around 12 AP classes that they take. And of those 6, they do need to take and pass at least one AP exam. Passing APs, they're on a numerical system where 3, 4, and 5 are considered a passing grade. 4 and 5 scores are what the colleges then look at and say, hey, you did this class in high school, but it was an AP class, which means the college board supervised the content and made sure it matched their standards. And you may be eligible for the for college credit if your child is going to a state school, or if it's a more selective school, they may not allocate your child credit hours for that, but it is a big part of why they accepted the child in the first place. Along with this really challenging curriculum, and the reason, by the way, that we use APs is that is a national standard. So we're not comparing ourselves to local Arizona schools in Arizona or local schools in Louisiana, we're comparing ourselves and the work that we're doing with your children to what is of availability in throughout the United States and the world as well. And that gives us something that is a standard to meet that we are not setting for ourselves or the state is not setting. It's something that is outside our control. And that's how we can really verify that, in fact, we are getting the children ready for these kinds of classes as well as for college. The other thing that you have to keep in mind with BASIS is we have a phenomenal college counseling program. There is no other situation that students have in public schools that is at all comparable. Our ratio, typically, I can talk about BASIS Tucson North, where my son goes. This year we have 60 some odd seniors. And so that means we have 2 college counselors. So that gives us a 1:32 ratio. In the state of Arizona, it is 1 college counselor to 600 or 700 students in a typical school. And that, of course, is because they are assuming that not all those students are going to be interested or capable of going to college. Our goal is for all of our children to be able to go to college. We are very much focused on that goal because, again, we want every door to be open for them when they leave our halls. They will, their senior year, have a college counseling class, which means that they're doing their applications, they're working with their college counselor, they're applying to colleges, all on scheduled time and with the best resources that we can provide. Seniors also have the opportunity to do a senior project their last trimester of school, which is a research project where they then also have an internship with either a local university or business. We do have students who sometimes do their senior projects more farther afield, maybe somewhere else in the United States or even internationally. And part of this is giving them a chance to experience what the workplace looks like in other locations, right? In a university lab, what is that like? As well as furthering the opportunity for them to develop their project, whether it's a scientific research situation or they're going to work on their own novel. We were just talking yesterday, Miss Mendoza, Tucson North, and I, about one of our favorites was we had a student who eventually went on to study physics. That was going to be his direction, but he would also been a phenomenal photography student with our AP art teacher at the time. And so he decided for his senior project, he would use his photography skills to see if he could get ugly dogs adopted. And with the appropriate photographer, they were able to find some homes despite their homeliness, was I think the tagline of that project. Um, BASIS is really good at what we do. We're super proud of what we do because it reflects our investment in your children. Our schools have, this current year, we have 11 high schools ranked in the top 100 in the country. We typically are in the top 10 for many of our schools. And that is because of the opportunities that we afford them to pursue higher level courses with throughout their career. One of the best high school U.S. News lists that we are often on, we're definitely among the best schools in the country. We are in the top charter schools as well. And then also STEM schools. BASIS, of course, does have a reputation for having advanced math and science courses, but our students actually end up taking more credit hours of literature, language, and social studies than they do math and science. However, we still do great and always pop up on the STEM lists as well. This year, we had the satisfaction of having our BASIS Peoria school as ranked the #1 high school in the country. And we're always in competition to see, which school is going to be in that #1 spot throughout the BASIS network. Our goal is always that all of our high schools are able to do so. And in fact, Peoria is not our first #1 high school. Many of our other high schools have had that slot in different years. But what it does attest to is that the curriculum that we are providing to your students is something that nationally is recognized as being extremely beneficial to them and allowing them to really move forward and be successful as they grow up. So, what makes BASIS special? We are definitely academically driven. Our students are definitely critical thinkers. My son, who's in sixth grade, there are times I wish he was a little bit less critically thinking than he is, because we tend to do our most critical thinking skills while we're supposed to be, getting our stuff and getting in the car so we can get to school on time. Our kiddos are very well rounded. One of the doors staying open for our kids that I like to refer to is that our students who are phenomenal uh, in math and science are also extremely good at communicating. They can write, they can present to others, they can collaborate on teamwork projects, and they are prepared so that they are able to communicate very well moving forward. Our students who think that they are absolutely going to go to law school and they're going to be writing the next great American novel, or they're going to be a poet, they are still able to do all the same calculus as their friends who are going to go on to be aeronautical engineers or chemical engineers. So when they do settle on what they eventually want to do with their lives, again, those doors are all open. They're very well rounded, and that gives them the chance to make decisions based on opportunities and interest that you just don't have if you don't have that kind of education coming out of high school. They're prepared for success and they're lifelong learners. One of the things I think we do a very good job of is teaching the kids that it's okay to struggle at something. Just because you're quote unquote a smart kid does not mean that you're not going to have questions, that you're not going to have situations in which you really don't know what you're doing and you need to go get help from a teacher, a professor, or tutor that can help you get to that point. One of the things I've often told my BASIS students, as well as my own children, is, it's okay if you're not good at it, but then what are we going to do about it? How are you going to get proficient? Who can help you? And so they're learning that they have to put in the work, they have to put in the effort, and that not being quote unquote good at something does not mean it's outside your range of opportunities. Our children, just children in general, are very much used to this idea of perfection and that one can just be good or bad at something. We see it even with our incoming kinders. I've had more than one kinder dissolve in tears because as they're learning to write their letters, they can't write as nicely as their teacher. And I'm like, your teacher's been doing that for 35 years. You've only been doing it for 2 months. Like, you can do this. But that's something that has to be taught and it has to be modeled. And because if you have a perfectionist tendency at all, you don't really believe anyone until you have to work through that process for yourself. And that resiliency is something that is so important going into college and going into their workplace lives. You have to be able to work hard at things that maybe aren't your first choice or aren't something that you're naturally just good at. And that's what makes our kids successful, is because they can overcome these problems that present themselves, and those problems present themselves for every one of us. So we don't want them to get to college and that's the first time something is a little bit hard for them. We have lots of fun at BASIS. In the lower grades, we call them brain breaks, as well as recesses. Brain breaks are, having a quick dance party. Particularly first grade math does a lot of dance parties that involve all of the addition and subtraction signs, vertical lines, horizontal lines, oblique lines. A lot of dancing can be done with that. And of course, phenomenal PE classes. Many of our primary schools also offer martial arts as one of the components of their PE program, which gives students exposure to something they might not otherwise learn about, but also really learning how to apply thought and purpose to the movement of their bodies. Traditional PE is incredibly valuable for the social and emotional piece that goes into it. Taking turns. We learned a lot about that in bringing students back from COVID. That's actually where they learn how to take turns, how to share, how to play a game together with another child. You have to have other children present in order to do that. And so both of those components, both the recesses, the unstructured time recesses, brain breaks in the classroom, as well as PE is extremely important for their development. All of our schools have a variety of holiday and cultural events. We do a lot of cultural events depending on who is attending our schools. BASIS Tucson Primary does a World's Fair night where families are able to sign up and share elements of their family's culture and history, food sometimes as well, which is always a good reason to have a World's Fair, and really exposing the children to their peers and who else is out there in the world that might be different from them. We have a variety of extracurriculars and student clubs, especially for the little kids. Regular public schools do not have much variety in terms of after school options for families. We do. Our schools have very robust programs for different kinds of clubs. Some of them are teacher run, depending on what the teacher's interests are. So for example, at BASIS Tucson Primary, we had a knitting club for a number of years. We've had Pokemon Club. We had Minecraft Club until I ran out of adults that could stand talking about Minecraft anymore. So they're on a break until we hire somebody who likes Minecraft again. But it's really about what the teachers and their interests and what they're able to bring to the school. We do also at some of our schools offer outside programming depending on what's available in that area. Student clubs, as the kids get older, are driven by the students. So things that the kids are interested in doing that they want to see supported, they have to have a faculty advisor, someone to sign up for being the grown-up for that activity. But it's really an opportunity for the students to develop their own interests and share them with others. We offer the school dances, prom and homecoming for the older students, a variety of student performances all the way through from kindergarten all the way through high school. Our kiddos in primary all take art, music, and theater. As they get older, they're able to specialize and choose some of those as their specific electives. We have many spirit weeks. At primary, a big deal is always pajama day. I will say there are lots and lots of pajama days at primary, and there are quite a few in middle school and high school as well, as that's always a hit, as well as sports. For sports, our students are participating in the local leagues and competing against schools of similar size. So we do offer a full range of extracurricular activities as well as sports. For sports, it's usually going to be your let's see, soccer, basketball, flag football, and then depending on the campus, all of the different kinds of activities and sports that might be popular with that particular group of people. Support. I've talked a lot about this already. One of the things that we do at BASIS is make sure that we are there to support your students. So in the primary, that means that we are using our tests and our information from assessments to identify areas that students might need more support in, because our goal is always to provide those interventions and close those gaps before they have a chance to get any larger. We want to catch any misunderstandings or any issues early on in a child's development so that they can continue to grow in their strength in that area. We do have free before care at our schools. It's called Early Bird. And most schools, it starts between 7 and 7:15 and goes until the start of that grade level. After school care is available as well. That is fee-based, and additionally, that's in the afternoon is when teachers are holding their student hours. So your child might be invited or asked, or you might want your child to go to math student hours to improve their understanding of a particular area. There are also going to be the option then though of just late bird, where they're under supervised care until most of our schools until 5:30. There are booster clubs for parent involvement. We don't necessarily have parents active in the classroom, but everything we do at BASIS schools is absolutely in partnership with parents. So we have strong booster organizations. Booster groups tend to organize things like hot lunch, also different community events, different, stock the pantry events for the teachers. And there are many ways to get involved. As I mentioned, their weekly student hours or office hours with the teachers for additional support. In addition to the communication journal, we use Parent Square, which is a wonderful platform that allows us to post information out to you. We can also use it for emergency announcements, such as, there's always the city always decides to pave a road right before dismissal. So maybe you need to come in from a different way, and we're able to share that information out quickly. On the parent end of it, I appreciate it because it means when I realize I didn't actually read all the emails and I know there's a Halloween dance coming up, and am I supposed to buy the ticket or what am I supposed to do? I can go into my parent square and I can search up the more recent posts and I can find what I need and follow through that way. It also allows you to message the teachers directly, although you're also welcome to email them as well. And with that, I will conclude my part of the presentation. I very much appreciate you taking the time to learn about BASIS charter schools. We love what we do, we love our schools, and we love your kids. So please sign up for a tour at a school near you. And thank you for thinking of BASIS.